A human man was stranded with 10 beautiful alien women from the galaxy after an accident. The worst part wasn't the explosion, nor the part where the emergency lights blinked Morse code-style insults at him while the nav system screamed in 12 languages. No, the worst part was definitely that his sandwich, perfectly toasted, perfectly balanced, heavy on the mustard, was now plastered against the ceiling of the cockpit like a tragic, meaty starfish. Jace Trenton blinked at the blinking lights, tasted blood in his mouth, and let out a groan. "Well," he muttered, unstrapping himself, "that's another 5-star Yelp review for intergalactic freight." The ship's interior was a mess. Panels dangled, sparks hissed, and one of the artificial gravity units was pulsating like it had developed stage fright. Outside, through the cracked viewport, an alien sky unfurled in colors that were, frankly, a little show-offy. A tri-sun system cast odd shadows on an ocean of glittering purple sand. A storm was brewing on the horizon, swirling up like a judgmental latte. Jace stumbled out, boots sinking half a meter into the sand. His suit began auto-diagnostics, cheerfully informing him that he had sustained only minor internal liquefaction. He spat. "Thanks, Doc." A loud crash echoed from somewhere behind him, followed by the unmistakable hiss of a fusion pod venting. Then another crash, then another. 10 in total, in a very deliberate sequence, as if fate were counting down something and had just reached 0. He turned slowly, 10 smoking wrecks, scattered in a ragged semicircle, each a distinct shape and style, clearly from different empires. One was shaped like a crescent, another like a spiral shell. One looked like a giant floating eyeball, and Jace made a mental note not to judge. Movement. One of the pods hissed open. Out stepped a tall woman with violet skin, silver hair braided into a high crest, and ears that curved back elegantly like wings made of flesh. Her eyes fixed on Jace with the calm assurance of someone who had trained their whole life for this moment, and had already decided he was an idiot. "You," she said, voice sharp. "Identify yourself." "Pilot Jace Trenton," he replied, saluting instinctively, which only made his shoulder pop. "Licensed Class B freight handler, unlicensed stand-up comic, occasional sandwich artist." She blinked once. Her ears twitched. "You are the cause of this accident." That's a bold accusation from someone who just fell out of the sky like a flaming bowling pin. A low growl. "I am Commander Kryn of the Coalition Armada. You will address me as..." Another pod opened, cutting her off. This one expelled a burst of mist, and a woman stepped out wearing what looked like ceremonial armor made entirely of reflective crystal. She wore it like it was casual. She raised an eyebrow at the scene and then said, "Did we all crash into the same dirtball, or is this one of those weird simulation trials again?" "Real dirtball," Jace said, raising a hand, verified with my face. One by one the others, Zarella of the Nightclade, who wore shadows like accessories and smiled like a knife. Scyllin, all lean limbs and sharp wit, who immediately took apart a comms unit with her bare hands for analysis. Leary, barefoot, humming, with bioluminescent patterns crawling gently across her skin, who tried to hug a cactus. Kyra, who said nothing but scanned the sky for satellites and did not stop until she counted none. The rest followed, each a new shade of danger and beauty, each with ears that marked them as not quite human. "I'm seeing a pattern here," Jace muttered. "Long ears, imperial attitudes, high cheekbones. Either I'm dead, and this is some very specific afterlife, or I've crashed into a convention of genetically enhanced space queens." Zarella turned, the wind catching her cloak dramatically. "You speak too much for a male. I've heard that before, usually right before someone throws a drink at me." "Silence," Kryn snapped. "We need a head count and shelter. We cannot assume safety." "I second that," Kyra said. "There's movement underground, subterranean structures, possibly automated." Jace clapped his hands. "Great! Buried alien tech. What could possibly go wrong? Let's just poke it with a stick and see." They glared at him in unison. Okay, I'll help build a camp first, but for the record, I still vote for the stick." 3 hours later, they had something that loosely resembled a camp. Salvaged panels made into tents, heat units calibrated to not melt anyone's eyebrows off, and a central fire made from crashed fuselage that smelled faintly of roasted circuitry. Food was scarce. Jace offered to cook with his emergency rations. The result was a rubbery stew he called Syntho Chow Deluxe. Leary took a bite and blinked. "Is this supposed to taste like feet? It's an acquired taste." I don't want to acquire it, Kryn said, tossing her portion to a scavenger beetle that sniffed it and promptly died. Harsh, Jace said. I worked hard on that. Kind of. Emotionally. Night fell. The tri-suns vanished behind the horizon, replaced by a moon that flickered like a malfunctioning light bulb. The wind carried strange sounds, mechanical, musical, whispering. No one slept well. Zarella stood watch, blades at her hips, eyes narrowed. Scylla built a makeshift transmitter that did nothing except play old Earth jazz, which she pretended to hate but never turned off. Kyra sat next to Jace and, in a moment of weakness, asked, "Is your planet always this? Inconvenient?" "Only on Tuesdays." She almost smiled. Somewhere beneath them, something hummed. Deep, rhythmic, ancient. Jace didn't hear it, but the women did. Their ears twitched in unison, and none of them liked what they heard. Jace woke to the sound of rhythmic humming, which at first he assumed was his own stomach protesting last night's Syntho Chow Deluxe. It wasn't. The ground vibrated faintly beneath his makeshift cot, a pulsing tremor that seemed almost musical, like a bass line from a party 2 galaxies over. He sat up groggily and banged his head on the slanted roof of the half-melted panel that was pretending to be his tent. "Good morning to me," he muttered, rubbing his forehead and checking to see if his skull was still in one piece. It mostly was. Outside, the women were already up. Naturally, some were running diagnostics on salvaged tech, others scanning the horizon with weapons that looked like they required a PhD in both engineering and interpretive dance to operate. Kryn was yelling at a nearby boulder for standing there menacingly. "I'm starting to think she doesn't like rocks," Jace whispered to no one. Lyri was squatting near the ground, her glowing patterns flickering rapidly. She pressed her hand to the soil and tilted her head. Jace approached cautiously. "Listening for gossip?" She looked up, eyes calm. "The planet is breathing. Okay, creepy, but poetic. Continue." "There's an underground resonance. It's biological but also technological, like a neural net but fossilized. It's awake. Still creepy, less poetic now." Scylla wandered over, arms covered in grease and bits of antenna sticking from her hair. "I've been hacking pieces of the escape pods. If I can get enough computing power, I might be able to triangulate the pulse's origin. But I need more parts, and someone with tiny, desperate hands to climb into an overheating fusion core." Jace raised his hand. "Why does that always end up being me? Because we all saw how you tried to fix a kettle by screaming at it. It worked eventually. It exploded eventually." Kyra joined them, arms crossed, gaze serious. "We'll need a full scouting mission. The storm's patterns are changing. It's gathering energy, and it's moving in concentric paths around a fixed point, exactly where the pulses are coming from." "Oh good," Jace said. "The mysterious death hum is the center of the planetary hurricane. I was worried it might be easy." Preparations were made. Scylla fashioned a scanner from broken helmet sensors, an old Earth flashlight, and what looked suspiciously like one of Jace's socks. Zarella claimed command of the expedition, but was quickly overruled by Kryn, who then declared herself commander before Kyra quietly overruled both by simply walking off into the desert. The rest followed. Jace found himself at the back of the group, talking to himself because no one else would tolerate his pacing monologue. "I should have just stuck with cargo runs. Nice, boring crates. Crates don't argue. Crates don't have opinions about whether a protein bar is food or an affront to the concept of sustenance. Crates never stab you." "Are you talking to your water bottle?" asked Lyri, appearing beside him without warning. "Yes, it listens." Unlike they trekked across glittering sands until the sun overhead began to dim unnaturally, not from cloud cover but something else, like the light itself was being filtered. The temperature dropped. The pulse grew stronger, vibrating up their legs with every step. At the center of a stone basin, half buried under mineral formations, lay a geometric structure made from obsidian-like crystal and twisted metal that reflected the sky in odd patterns. It pulsed in time with the hum, and as they approached, the sound began to shift, syncing with their steps, then their heartbeats, then somehow their thoughts. "That's definitely not normal," Jace said, "and I've worked with alien bureaucracy. Nothing is more abnormal than a 3-headed customs officer asking you if your spleen is on the correct side." Kyra stepped forward, hand extended. "It's not just reacting to us, it's reading us. This thing isn't a beacon, it's a brain." Zarella unsheathed one of her blades. Then let's shut it down before it reads something it shouldn't. But before anyone could act, the structure lit up in a burst of soft blue and unfolded itself. The basin trembled, beneath them cracked, and a staircase formed from liquid crystal descended into darkness. Jace sighed. Of course it's a creepy underground staircase. It was either that or a glowing teleportation ring. I guess today's a stairs into doom kind of day. They descended. The tunnel walls shimmered, displaying flickering images, memories that didn't belong to any of them. Battles fought in space, species rising and falling, laughter and weeping in languages no one could understand. The air was charged, heavy with something that felt like emotion translated into static. Scyllin ran a scanner across the wall. It's storing psychic echoes, millions of years of history. This place isn't just a ruin, it's a recording. Kira touched the wall and went rigid. A moment later she pulled back sharply. It just showed me, myself, dying. Then living again. Then kissing Jace? Everyone turned. Jace raised both hands. Okay, I swear I have nothing to do with ancient predictive prophecy machines. Zarella narrowed her eyes. Yet? The chamber opened up into a wide hall, filled with suspended data cores, glass-like orbs floating mid-air, humming in tones that seemed to harmonize with the women's voices as they spoke. The resonance rejected Jace's speech entirely. When he said hello, the orbs all shuddered and dimmed. Wow, Jace said. Even ancient alien tech thinks I talk too much. They split up to explore the chamber. Kryn tried to extract a core by force, which only resulted in an electric jolt that knocked her back 10 feet. Lyri coaxed one into glowing brighter by singing to it. Scyllin got one to replay what looked like an ancient soap opera, which she insisted was for cultural research. Then the lights dimmed. The orbs began spinning. A deep voice, neither male nor female, echoed through the chamber in a dialect that translated imperfectly into their minds. Convergence candidates, genetic variances detected, emotional instability, high, probability of survival, statistically absurd. Jace stepped forward, hands on hips. Hey, I'll have you know I've survived 17 near-death situations and one very aggressive coffee date. The voice paused. Designation Jace Trenton. Role variable. Zarella turned. What in the name of the void is a variable? I don't know, Jace said, frowning, but it doesn't sound like something with a dental plan. The voice resumed. Testing sequence initiated. The floor lit up, doors appeared, 10 of them, each labeled in glyphs that shimmered and shifted into something familiar. Each woman saw her name. The room began to shake, and Jace, standing awkwardly between all of them, felt the sudden, undeniable urge to run. Too bad there was nowhere left to go. I don't like doors, Jace said. They always lead to trouble, or taxes. The 10 doors shimmered again, each pulsating with an eerie internal glow that made it very clear they weren't ordinary doors, not the kind that politely let you into rooms with snacks and normal furniture. These had an attitude. These were destiny doors, probably trapped, possibly sentient, almost definitely judgmental. Scyllin was already scanning hers with a cobbled-together handheld device that beeped nervously every few seconds. It's psycho-reactive, keyed to our neural patterns. Zarella stepped toward hers, hand twitching over the hilt of one of her blades. This is a trial. Kryn crossed her arms and narrowed her eyes. Typical coalition psychological warfare. Hallucinogenic initiation chambers designed to root out instability. Sounds like a spa day, Jace said, grinning. No one laughed, except Lyri, who laughed at everything, including the time a cactus exploded. Kyra was already opening her door. No ceremony, no hesitation. It yawned open silently and swallowed her in a flicker of light. Wait, we're just... Okay then, Jace muttered. Apparently we're not discussing this as a team. One by one, the others entered their doors. Some with quiet resolve, some with sighs, some with ominous declarations that really didn't make Jace feel better about the situation. Then there were two. Lyri turned to Jace and smiled, her bioluminescent skin shimmering in pale pinks and oranges. Good luck, variable. He frowned. Why do you all keep calling me that like it's a horoscope for you're about to be vaporized? Because, she said, stepping backward through her glowing door, that's exactly what it means. The moment she vanished, the last door pulsed with a brilliant light and slowly rotated to face Jace directly. It had a small glyph on it now, glowing in a soft blue pattern that, when Jace squinted at it, looked suspiciously like a stick figure with wild hair tripping over its own shoelace. "Very funny," he muttered, stepping forward. The moment he touched the door, it didn't open. It inhaled. That's how, like the space around him folded in, swallowed him whole, and then promptly sneezed him out onto a completely different plane of reality. He landed on his face. "Classic," he said, spitting sand. Except it wasn't sand. It was data. Glowing streams of code flowed across the ground, beneath his hands, through his arms. The sky above was black, but not empty. It was filled with equations and diagrams that shifted like constellations, an endless expanse of problems waiting to be solved. Jace stood up slowly. "Okay, so this is a nightmare, or a math teacher's fever dream." A voice echoed all around him. "Variable detected, initiating compatibility test." "Can I opt out?" he groaned. Fine. What are we doing? Sudoku? Galactic trivia? A spelling bee?" The ground around him reshaped. One by one, figures began to form from the data stream. 10 of them. Not the women, but aspects of them. Visual fragments, emotions and intentions given form, all looking at him expectantly. "Okay," Jace said. 10 psychological projections of 10 alien women, all silently judging me. Yep, definitely a dating sim from hell. The projections began circling him, each one representing something intangible. Zarella's fragment radiated authority and danger. Kryn's exuded duty and rigidity. Kyra's quiet sorrow and buried fire. Lyri's glowed like a dream, all possibility and illusion. The voice returned. "Evaluate your influence. Emotional impact, pattern deviation." "Hold on," Jace said. "You want me to analyze my effect on them? That's not fair. I haven't even gotten to give half of them my infamous apple pie recipe yet." Analysis continues. Suddenly, the fragments flickered and began to show visions. Moments from the last few days. Jace talking too much. Jace making bad jokes. Jace burning dinner. Jace standing between two of them during a shouting match and diffusing the tension with a reference to ancient Earth sitcoms. "Okay," he admitted. "That one was clever." The voice was cold, impersonal. "You are the variable, the unaccounted, the unplanned, the illogical." Is that a compliment? No. "Well, you're a terrible motivational speaker." Each fragment began to speak, not out loud, but directly into his mind. Feelings, flashes of thoughts, moments of uncertainty, curiosity, even impossible. "They're changing," Jace said quietly. The voice responded. "You are altering the control group, introducing instability, emotional compromise, unifying dissonant patterns." "So I'm the problem." "No," said the voice. "You are the possibility." That felt like the nicest insult he'd ever received. Then the ground cracked. All 10 doors exploded open simultaneously, on different planes of space, but in the same moment. The women were flung back into the center of the hall, eyes wide, some gasping, some still caught in strange mental loops. Jace landed beside them with a loud grunt. They stared at each other. No one spoke for a full 10 seconds. Then Scylla coughed and said, "I fought my dead sister in a maze made of teeth," Kyra muttered. "I relived the fall of my homeworld while being comforted by an animated spoon." Zarella stared at Jace. "You were there. You gave me a mango." "I did? You said it was a symbol of trust. Then it exploded." Jace blinked. "Wow, that's a lot of emotional baggage for one fruit." The room calmed. The lights dimmed. The 10 doors vanished. The floating orbs hummed together, glowing brighter, casting their soft light across all of them. The voice returned. "Trial complete. Harmonics detected. Disharmony reduced. Integration plausible." Kryn rubbed her temples. "What does that mean?" "It means," Lyri said slowly, smiling, "we passed." The floor shifted again, revealing a spiral staircase heading even deeper. Jace looked at it and groaned. "We've done doors? Now we're doing stairs again? This place really needs an elevator." No one laughed, but a few of them smiled. "Nope, not doing another staircase. I draw the line here," Jace said, standing firmly at the top step like a man who'd read too many sci-fi horror stories and knew what was coming. "Staircases in ancient alien ruins only lead to 2 things, betrayal or flashbacks." "We've already had both," Scylla replied, stepping past him with a sigh. "Statistically, the third's usually lasers." "Great. My favorite." They descended. The staircase spiraled down farther than made sense, and by the time the group reached the bottom, even Zarella's usual scowl had softened into something resembling existential wariness. Kryn muttered something about gravitational dilation while shaking sand from her boots. Jace tried to calculate how many calories he'd burned, and whether that justified eating his last protein bar, which tasted like regret and mildly disappointed peanut. The chamber at the bottom was larger than the last, quieter, darker. Floating geometric structures rotated silently above a smooth platform. An orb in the center glowed pale white. The air shimmered, the walls or at least, that's what it felt like. Lyri tilted her head. We're inside a living memory. That sentence is not comforting, Jace whispered. That's a sentence you hear before someone's consciousness gets eaten. A projection shimmered to life above the orb, vague and translucent, humanoid but impossible to focus on. It flickered with color and form, changing second by second as if undecided about what shape it preferred. Integration phase commencing, it announced in a smooth, neutral tone that had the personality of a tax auditor with cosmic power. Zarella immediately drew both blades. Define integration. It means assimilation of emotional data into planetary synapse core, the voice said. Your memories, decisions, and responses will contribute to the revival of this planet's consciousness. Jace raised his hand. Follow-up question. If the planet wakes up and doesn't like what it sees, do we get unalived? No, you will be recycled. Great, even better. Scyllin was already inspecting the orb. It's some kind of neural hub, an AI merged with planetary systems, possibly an extinct civilization's last failsafe. Kaira circled slowly. It was waiting for us, or someone like us. The trials, Kryn said, nodding. A test of unity under pressure. Cooperation, emotional flexibility, trust. All things our empires generally avoid. Jace pointed at the orb. I also brought granola bars. Pretty sure that helped. The orb began to pulse faster. One by one, holographic panels appeared around them, each showing scenes from earlier events. Zarella threatening Jace with a knife made of bone, Lyri talking to a cactus, Scyllin and Kryn arguing over protocol, Kaira standing alone during a windstorm. Then unexpectedly new ones. Scenes that hadn't happened. Versions of them in other scenarios. Different outcomes. Some ended in death. Some in silence. Some in laughter. Jace stared. Are those alternate timelines? They're simulations, Scyllin said. Predictive possibilities. The projections shifted again, showing one version where Zarella walked away from the group and activated a beacon that called in a war fleet. Another where Jace disappeared after the first night and was never seen again, presumably eaten by a mildly curious worm. Another showed them all working together to terraform the planet. I like that last one, Jace said. It ends with me getting a greenhouse and an apron. Kryn narrowed her eyes at her own projection. In this one, I betray the group. Same, said Kaira quietly. Lyri stepped into the center. But we didn't. That's what matters. The orb responded with a tone that could only be described as mildly surprised. Correct. More pulses. The platform beneath them shifted upward slightly. Planetary protocols initiating, said the projection. Revival authorized. Suddenly, alarms blared. That, Jace muttered, is never a good sign. Unregistered signal detected, the projection. Secondary entity approaching. Warning, corruption. Kryn was already tapping her wristband. It's not one of us. Could be another ship, maybe a war drone from one of the other factions. It's landing, Kaira said, eyes on the hovering structures above them, outside the ruins, near our camp. Scyllin stared at the orb. If it interfaces with this neural system, it could override everything. Reset the planet, wipe our data. I just started developing character depth, Jace protested. We can't reset now. Lyri touched the orb gently. We have to protect it, or everything we've done means nothing. The orb responded to her touch. Light flared, the walls pulsed once. Then a small panel opened beside the orb, revealing a spherical device with a core of liquid light. Scyllin gasped. Is that a core relay? Jace looked at it. It looks like an interstellar snow globe. Zarella grabbed it. We take this, we get out, and we defend the interface point. They sprinted back through the ruins. The staircase mercifully despiraled into a smooth ramp, which Jace decided was the first nice thing the ruin had done for them. As they burst into the open air, they saw it. Descending from the sky, a sleek black object shaped like a teardrop made of chrome and contempt. It hummed with dangerous grace and fired a low-altitude pulse that vaporized one of their makeshift shelters. Jace skidded to a stop. Okay, so that's our guest. Imperial Hunter-class probe, Kryn snapped. AI piloted, seeks out unstable ruins, wipes conflicting data, assimilates raw resources. It's a history-eating Roomba. Weapons drawn, they spread out. Kyra tossed Jace a shock bolt pistol and didn't even tell him not to shoot himself in the foot. Progress. Scylla activated a drone made from 3 tin cans and something that might have once been a coffee maker. Zarella went full stealth, vanishing into the swirling dust. Kryn took the front line with unshakable calm. Leary was humming. The probe fired a pulse. Jace ducked behind half a comms panel, took aim and whispered, "All right, big guy. Time to earn my emotional resonance badge." The battle was chaotic, beautiful, and ridiculous. Kryn deflected a plasma burst with a deflector shield made from a satellite dish. Leary managed to confuse the probe's sensors by projecting dancing holograms of herself singing Earth pop songs. Scylla's drone overloaded and exploded in what she insists was tactically intentional. Jace got thrown once, maybe twice, but eventually together, they drove it back. Kyra struck the final blow, using a magnetic repulsor charge to knock the probe into a crevasse where it sparked once, hissed, and died like a very expensive toaster. They stood, panting. The orb in Zarella's hand pulsed gently. Jace wiped soot from his face. "So, that's it? We saved the ancient alien consciousness, stopped the killer drone, and now we get medals and a fruit basket?" Leary smiled. "Now we decide what comes next." Kyra looked around. "The planet is waking. We woke it, together." Kryn crossed her arms. "I hate to admit it, but this may have been the right accident." Zarella handed Jace the orb. "You're the variable. Now be the choice." He stared at it. No pressure or anything. The orb pulsed once in Jace's hands, not like a machine, but like a heartbeat. He didn't know what it meant exactly, but it felt like something alive was waiting. Not in a creepy horror movie way, but more of a hopeful, please don't drop me kind of way. Everyone stared at him. Not with suspicion, not even expectation. Something weirder. Trust. Zarella nodded once. "The core chooses its interface." "Why does it keep choosing me?" Jace asked. "There were 10 other candidates with better cheekbones and less of a tendency to trip over things." Scylla shrugged. "Maybe it likes chaotic energy." Kyra stood beside him and adjusted the orb's position in his grip. "It's not choosing your skill. It's choosing your influence. You changed us. You made us trust each other." "Mostly because I was too annoying to ignore." "Exactly." The orb expanded slightly, lights swirling faster. A soft hum began to vibrate under their feet again, but this time it wasn't ominous. It felt like a machine stretching after a nap that lasted longer than recorded history. "Planetary system waking," announced the projection from earlier. "Please remain still while core configuration completes, or don't. Your organic life forms, chaos is expected." Kryn frowned at the orb. "So now what? This planet comes back to life and sings us a thank you ballad?" "No," Leary said softly, eyes glowing. "It integrates us. Not just memories, choices. We've become part of its rebirth pattern." Zarella crossed her arms. "If it starts writing poetry about us, I'm leaving." The ground shimmered as massive circuitry lines spread out in every direction like roots of light, connecting old ruins, fallen structures, and even the strange stone trees on the horizon. The sky flickered. Something above clicked into place. Jace stepped forward. "I don't really know how to reboot a planet. I've only barely learned how to reboot a coffee maker without setting off fire suppression." "You don't need to know," said the voice. "You only need to choose." The orb lifted from his hands, floating between them all. "Choice A," the voice intoned. "Restore the planet's original parameters. Lock all data, eliminate anomaly, return to isolated stasis. Safe, predictable, dead." "Sounds like my last relationship," Jace muttered. "Choice B, adapt, incorporate new emotional variants, evolve directive, welcome interference, embrace chaos, uncertain, alive." Scylla blinked. "Wait, are we really being offered the choice between stagnation and terrifying possibility?" Zarella rolled her eyes. "It's not a choice." "Then why is it asking?" Kryn snapped. "Because we needed to hear ourselves say it," Kyra said. "Together." Jace sighed. "Fine, I vote B. Even if it means the planet spontaneously grows therapy trees." "Seconded," said Leary, smiling. "Thirded," muttered Scylla. "That's not a word, but I said it anyway." One by one, they agreed. The orb surged with light and launched skyward, firing a beam into the atmosphere. The clouds reacted like curtains being pulled aside. Sunlight, not the hot, judgmental kind, but warm and new, spread over the desert. The pulse spread fast, structures repaired themselves, ruins realigned. A humming song began resonating in the air, notes made of memories. They all felt it, not words, but meaning. The planet remembering who it was, and now who it had become. They stood in silence for a long time. Then Jace asked, "Okay, so, are we stuck here forever now, or?" "Not quite," said Scylla, activating her rebuilt transmitter. "That last energy surge boosted our beacon range. Someone will hear us now, eventually." "Do we want them to?" Zarella glanced around. "Depends on who comes. An empire looking for conquest?" Kryn nodded. "Or a council looking for cooperation. Or a salvage crew looking for their missing snack shipment," Jace added. "Speaking of, I may have eaten our last protein bar, purely for symbolic reasons." Kyra smirked. "You're impossible, and yet strangely indispensable." They stayed together that day, wandering the reawakening terrain. The planet wasn't just alive now, it was curious. Colors shifted depending on who touched what. Trees responded to song. At one point, Jace swore a rock tried to give him a thumbs up. Later that evening, under stars that no longer flickered like warning lights but shone with something more hopeful, they sat around a small fire. Not for warmth, they didn't need it, but because people needed something to gather around. Lyri handed out fruit she claimed was safe to eat. It glowed faintly and tasted like victory and mildly suspicious kiwi. "So," Scylla said, chewing thoughtfully, "what happens when someone finally picks up our beacon?" Zarella answered first. "We decide what we tell them." "And what we don't," added Kryn. Jace leaned back, staring at the sky. "We tell them a story." Kyra looked at him. "What kind?" "The kind that makes them want to cooperate instead of conquer. The kind that makes them laugh. The kind that reminds them that 10 enemies and 1 idiot can still save a world." Lyri chuckled. "I vote we call it the Chronicles of Variable and the Space Queens." Zarella raised an eyebrow. "I vote no." "I'm filing a minority report," Jace said, already chewing on a stylus like a pipe. "My memoir will be called I Did Everything and Somehow Didn't Die." Kryn looked up. "I never imagined I'd find myself here, with all of you, laughing." "Surprise," Scylla said. "You're fun now." "I blame Jace," Kyra added. Jace held up his hands. "I accept partial credit." They all looked at each other, really looked. 10 warriors, spies, scientists out, and 1 human pilot who'd been just reckless enough to survive them. Eventually, someone would come. Maybe an empire, maybe explorers, maybe a diplomat with great hair and a questionable agenda. But the planet was no longer empty, it was no longer forgotten, and neither were they. They had made something. Together. The end.